And if you are wise, you will only experience one Stephen. You don't need to experience a Stephen more than once. Welcome back to Mode Theory, my media analysis platform. As usual, I'm just going to get straight into it. And I'm actually really been looking forward to today's video. I'm doing something just a tad bit different. Today's video is a quick fire character analysis review type of each character from Tell Me Lies. And let me tell you something, Tell Me Lies was another show that I kept ignoring and then ended up thoroughly enjoying. I need to stop doing that. If you are not new to this channel, you will know that I absolutely love a good drama that just focuses on the human condition, psychology, behavior, just very ordinary everyday things that can very well happen in real life. And Tell Me Lies, I feel like anybody that has been to university, or as Americans call it, college, will just so strongly relate to Tell Me Lies, because essentially, as you know, it follows just a group of friends and all the scandals, the lying, the cheating, the happy times, the everything that follows them as a friendship group, the highs, the lows. And it really is like that in university. Just absolutely loved it. I ended up watching all of the seasons in like, I don't know, I think it took me like 3 weeks. But yeah, let's just get straight into it. So I'm just going to start off with Stephen. Stephen is somebody that you meet in this life because you were committing heinous crimes in a previous life. Stephen is the devil and is the epitome of just, without sounding dramatic, pure evil. The scary thing about Stephen is that he doesn't make any genuine connections. He studies people from afar and uses their highs, their lows, their strengths, their weaknesses against them. And we see it happen every time so effortlessly. Stephen would come on my screen and I would get like visceral reactions. It felt like he was gaslighting me. Yeah? A majority of women would have experienced a Stephen, and if you are wise, you will only experience one Stephen. You don't need to experience a Stephen more than once. Period. Stephen survives through control, emotional stability, and just sheer strategy. He's a cold narcissist, and you obviously see where or why he ends up that way, because his mother is also so troubled. But for me, it wasn't enough for me to ever look at Stephen and think, oh, because he was just so good at what he did. Crazy. I think that Jackson White is a phenomenal actor. You know me, I always say when someone can bring out such a visceral reaction from the audience, you're talented. Because Stephen would just like, it just felt too direct, like he was targeting me. Which brings me perfectly onto Lucy. I really tried with Lucy. I didn't dislike Lucy. She just frustrated me. And it wasn't her fault. Because at the end of the day, it takes someone really G'd up, yeah, to understand a Stephen. I can sniff out a Stephen from a mile away. But obviously, we need to take into account that they're in college. So that's normally the stage in life that you learn about different types of people and how to maneuver around people. You learn the red flags roundabout college or university. So I always had to keep that in mind. But I feel like everyone has had a friend like Lucy where it's like, girl, how many times will this man simply embarrass you for you to get the point? And like the sad thing about Lucy is that I do feel like a lot of her decisions come from a place of like emotional loneliness and wanting to feel chosen. She's driven by like validation and also fantasy, because it's like she can't seem to understand who Stephen is. She romanticized Stephen just so heavily. But yeah, Lucy is like, I didn't dislike her. It was just hard to watch sometimes. Even the last episode, anyway, that I will discuss in another video. Tune in. Now moving on to Evan. Now, Evan, I don't have a strong opinion on Evan simply because I don't think the show delved into his character enough. I feel like we saw a bit of it when he was hosting at his parents, one of his parents' house, and he had that like breakdown when he got drunk. And you know, that was very nice and vulnerable to see, because Evan is quite controlled, quite to himself, nowhere near anything like Stephen. He tries to make good decisions, even though he did fall short, sleeping with Lucy. But it's like he tries to make good decisions. There's a conscious effort to try and be a good guy, right? Evan to me represents more of like a passive masculinity. Like he's kind, he's likable, he's quite peaceful. It's like he's a good guy, but he still contributes to like the dysfunction of the group, if that makes sense. Evan was okay, just wanted to peel back more layers with him. Now we have Pippa. Pippa was disappointing. First of all, I will say what happened to Pippa, if you've watched it, her assault was so sad and so terrible. And the reality for a lot of young girls. So sad. Even her just not wanting to talk about it, not wanting to bring it up. I really did feel for her. My two things with Pippa were, it just felt like at times she was quite self-righteous and that she put herself above her friends, even though she at times made like terrible decisions. And then also how she coerced Wrigley. I absolutely hated that. And I know the abused become abusers, but it's still unacceptable. Could really tell that Wrigley was just not comfortable. It was very sad to watch. I do think though that it was still important to put in the show because I don't think that men being coerced into intimacy is talked about enough. It is still a very big problem. So I don't know, with Pippa, it's like she had this very hyper independent girl boss kind of energy, but when you peeled it back, there was a lot of insecurity and a desire for acceptance almost. It was hard to like her, but I understood her character. Then we have Wrigley, one of my Shaylas. I have two Shaylas. Wrigley, my Shayla. Bro, Wrigley's character development was absolute tea. Wrigley irritated me at first. I hated seeing Wrigley on my screen. I thought he was boisterous. I thought he was annoying. I thought he lacked self awareness, and he did. But that's when the character development came through. Wrigley actually ended up being the only man in that friendship group that had a good moral compass. For example, when they were talking about Diana potentially being pregnant, and how he's like, yeah, well, it's not really Steven's choice whether or not she keeps it or not. She's the one carrying the baby. And then also love the way he snitched on Steven in the end, which ultimately led to Steven being expelled from Yale. Praise God, because leaking and sending somebody's nude pictures that they've sent of themselves to you is disgusting. You see Steven just like, ugh! Wrigley just became one of the most likable characters for me, honestly. It's very seldom that I go from absolutely hating a character to doing like a 180. And so Wrigley, kudos to you. Then we have my favorite character, my top Shayla, my Shayla Bree. Man, I felt for Bree. I felt for Bree on another level. Storyline with her and her mum, with her mother having her at such a young age and her not really knowing her mother really did touch me. And you know what? It was those two scumbags that groomed that girl. Oh god. The way she was groomed and manipulated by that weird couple, Oliver and his weird wife, truly disgusted me to my core. That girl was looking for validation and love that she never received growing up. And it was so painful watching her think that she actually had the control in that relationship. Oh, and to find out that one of your closest friends was intimate with your partner. Do you know what? Her crash out was a lot. But I kind of like, I'm sorry. Because I just feel like she had to endure so much. Brie is someone that wants like genuine connections and stability because she did not have this growing up. So my heart really went out to Brie, like, my Shayla. And the thing about Brie is that she's extremely vulnerable with people because she thinks that other people are operating in the same way. And that's why it's so hard to watch. But yeah, that was just a quick fire character review or analysis of the characters from Tell Me Lies. like I briefly mentioned in the beginning of the video, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. It's just right up my street. I'm going to do another video on how the show ended because I have very strong opinions on that. So stay tuned. Comment what you think about the characters, or who's your favorite character, who do you hate, and I hope it's Steven. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my blog also, which is linked in the description, and I shall see you guys next time.